In India, education has always been a top priority for generations. It's been seen as the foundation of success and a better future. But in today's world, where technology is advancing at lightning speed and the future is increasingly shaped by AI and automation, basically, we don't know what it really holds. Many parents are asking, how do we future-proof our children's education? As industries and job markets evolve, the skills our kids will need tomorrow may look very different from what we value today. So how do we prepare them for a future that's still unfolding and very, very unpredictable?
Now, the truth is there's no one-size-fits-all answer, and we're not going to promise to reveal that to you. But choosing the right education board for your child is about understanding what fits their learning style, their needs, especially in the future, and their goals. Whether it's an Indian board like ICSE or CBSE, or an international board like the IB or the IGCSE, each offers something very, very unique. And we thought today we should explore how each system approaches things, like curriculum flexibility, like holistic development, assessment methods, global recognition, and teaching styles.
Very
the
important,
idea of today is to help you make an informed decision about what's best for your child's future.
So like we said, this is a battle of boards, as we've called it, but there is no one board which is better than the other. It's always what's best suited for your child. So the key here to understand is what is best suited for your child, and perhaps we've got a spectrum of guests here for you on the program. Let me start by bringing in the popular ICSE representation here, Dr. Sanjay Roy. He's the principal of Greenlawns School in Worli, ICSE board. From CBSE, we've got Manipushpak Joshi, founding chairman of Aurum Global School in Haldwani. From the IB board, the international board here, we've got Rupa Chakravarty. She's the director of education of Suncity Schools in India. And IGCSE, that's the Cambridge board, we've got Mrs. Deepika Chatterjee, and she's the director principal for JBC, and another very popular school in Mumbai. Let me give the first word to the national boards, the schools and the boards we grew up in, to sort of understand what's really going on here. And let me bring in Dr. Sanjay Roy. Dr. Sanjay Roy, all of us in the 90s grew up knowing this is the only way to excel in life. Get good marks, get a good job, and then you are set on the right track. What is going on? Why has the sudden popularity of the international boards making everybody question, wait, hang on, is this rut-towing way really the way forward for our kids? And what I want to understand is, where do you think the Indian boards are actually lacking then?
So that's a very good question. Good morning to all of you. Good morning to the panelists. First, let me start with the ICSE board and let me tell you more about it. So ICSE is basically a very comprehensive, balanced and application-based board. It is a board that gives you an in-depth knowledge of the curriculum. Not only does it focus on the academics, but it also focuses on the extracurricular activities. When I talk about the application-based learning, we do have projects, we do have experiments, we have field trips. And overall, it is a board that makes an all-round personality, an all-round student. It makes student ready for the future, ready to take on the world by instilling certain important values as well, like social responsibility, respect for the diversity, and many more. But when it comes to a child who is trying to focus on moving abroad, now for that there is a specific requirement. They need to understand that when we are talking about the foreign universities, their grading system, their ways of teaching, their way of analyzing a child is completely different as compared to what we have in the Indian boards.
I see.
Yes, they do have a global mindset, adaptability, globally oriented education, and of course, their ways of teaching, their ways of having the curriculum design is completely different. So for a student who wants to move abroad, IB and IGCSE would be the right choice.
Okay.
For a child who is ready to take on the Indian challenges, you talk about the UPSC, you talk about the NEET exams, you talk about the IIT JEE exams. For them, the Indian curriculum is the best suited one. So it totally depends on what the child wants.
Okay. Okay.
Should we hear from Mr. Joshi too on that?
Yeah. Mr. Joshi, so
Yes, good
you know
morning.
what I'm hearing from Dr. Sanjay Roy is that if you want to appear for Indian competitive exams, ICSE or CBSE is the way forward. If you want to go abroad and that's your goal, then go for an IB board. Isn't that a very simplistic way of looking at things? And what about criticisms that both the boards, Indian boards, have been facing, that all you have to do is mug up the answers and go get a fantastic score? None of this. I don't remember much of what I studied in school here today, if I can be honest about it.
Right. I will give you 4 and 5 names. One is Sundar Pichai. Other one is Shantanu Narayanan. Third is Parag Agrawal, Satya Nadella, and Ajay Pal Singh Banga. We all know them, right? They are the product of our board. ICSE and CBSE boards. So they have done it, right? So I cannot say that Indian boards or the students which excel from Indian boards are not able to perform there. The only thing is, yes, if your child, if a parent can identify his child, and if he has to live in this culture of Indian culture and an Indian system, then obviously ICSE and CBSE are the best ones. But if you are about to move out, so how IB board come into existence? It's just because it was made for the individuals who move from one country to other, and they need one standardized board. So for them, this IB came into existence. Otherwise, every country has its own board, and according to its own situations and own circumstances, that boards evolves. So when any CBSE or ICSE student want to apply there are very simple methods. If they want to go for further studies, any foreign university studies, they have to make a profile of them very strong, where their contribution towards society should be very clearly mentioned in their whole profile. They have to sit for SAT if they are going for US basically. And then there are few AP examinations which they can do, and many are doing it. So I don't think that CBSE or ICSE students are, if they are planning to go out, then they should have to go to IB board, because then comes the cost. CBSE and ICSE are giving very affordable education in our country. But if you'll see in IB, the price are exorbitant.
Right.
Exorbitant price.
Yeah.
So this is what I say.
There's no denying the heavy price tag. I think the interesting question today, though, is how are we defining education? So what are we looking at? Are we looking at the quality of the education? Is that what is the final defining point here? Just to come in on some of these points, we have 2 more guests, and they're going to be speaking on IB and, as we've already told you, IGCSE. So if I can go first, let's go over to Ms. Chakravarty. Can we just ask you, I'm an IB kid. I know the critical thinking that IB says it's going to bring its students, and I mean, I've experienced it firsthand. I saw the difference between a CBSE education and an IB education. I just want to ask you, Ms. Chakravarty, that differentiation that we're making, that it's the right thing to do if you're growing abroad, do you think that's the biggest advantage that IB offers, or do you think it's far more when it comes to how to think? Because we said right in the beginning, it's about how to think and how to future-proof. That, for me, is where IB wins out. How do you see it?
So good morning, everybody. I'm so glad you asked that question, because I want to begin on the premise that my father went abroad and my son went abroad. And none of them were from either Cambridge or IB board. I studied in a Cambridge board. I didn't go abroad. So I think let's begin on that premise that it is not as simplistic, and I like that word, that it doesn't have such a simple definition about why do the IB board. It's a question of the vision and the necessity of teaching a child and how that teaching is to be expedited. So when we talk about that, that's when the premise or the base or the foundation comes in, So are we wanting our child to go through the content or the content delivery. It's very important for the content delivery to be of a certain kind. We also have the focus on holistic development, which of course I must add that CBSE is also trying to focus on that. But that's what these foreign boards actually look at. And you having been in the IB board, and I can tell you when I was doing Cambridge, like I remember in grade 6 we did Africa, because every year there was one continent we had to do in geography, and we were given this plank of wood, and in groups we had to make one of the villages of Africa, so I will never forget that we had to make round huts. So that was something which was so unique when I was learning. So it is about the three domains, that they have actually focused on. They focused on the cognitive, they focused on the affective, because you know that the core, you being an IB student, they bring in the core which has CAS, which is so resplendent, let me use that word, with the learning of creativity, of activity, and of service. So you have over here very clearly the three domains of learning being integrated, amalgamated, of cognitive, of affective, and psychomotor, so that the child's holistic development happens. And I think that is the best part. Content is there everywhere. But how do we deliver content is the key to this whole thing. And with the expansion, with boundaries becoming, kind of seamless world that we started living in, the international mindedness that it brings, and especially I'm talking about IB, is fantastic, And then we have TOK. I have taught TOK, Theory of Knowledge, and I know how fantastic and in-depth thinking that entails. And that is why I talk about the boards, but let's not be simplistic and say to go abroad, because I think that's a misnomer, an anomaly which has kind of cropped up from people who do not want to do the in-depth study of what actually these foreign boards give you.
Okay. But what about if we could take that second aspect, the price tag, because that's the other big thing that, with IB and IGCSE, that is a complaint. And when you look at the numbers, it's a legitimate complaint. This, Deepika Chatterjee, if we could come over to you on that.
Yes, that is something that all of us are aware of. However, I would start by saying what a wonderful panel to be a part of. Good morning to all my friends, and thank you for inviting me here to be a part of this discussion. First of all, I refuse to participate in the battle, because a battle looks like we are on opposite sides. In fact, all of us are sitting on the same side. We are talking about future-proofing education for our learners, and each one of us believes in that. The belief of best practices in education is actually curriculum agnostic. Does not matter which curriculum we follow, as long as we have reflective practitioners who realize that the goal of the curriculum is to ensure that our learners understand what agency means, what independent learning means. In order to understand the future needs people who will be able to strategize, who will be able to reflect, who will be able to solve the problems that we don't even know about. And that is the focus of all education. With NEP coming in, I think the lines between Indian and international education is just blurring. And like Rupa rightly said, the children that we are bringing up in our schools are going to inhabit the world. It's not just one country that we are thinking about. I think Indians have already established, like my friend said, that they can lead the world. And in order to lead the world, they need practices in schools that will ensure that they are ready with skills, they are ready with the idea that education goes beyond curriculum.
Mr.
Yes,
Chakravarty,
and the price.
you've spoken like a true teacher, like a true educationalist. Very glad to hear those words. And you're right, our attempt here is not to do a battle of sorts. Our attempt is just to understand what suits our kids the best, right? And we have enough and more examples of households where one child goes to a CBSE while the other goes to an IB, because the parents are able to take that call on which way are they more in depth. And the endeavor here is to just understand who's scoring on what front. So let me begin by asking you. The thing with IB that we often sort of understand is that it's very teacher oriented. And we've not had enough time to see a long-term result of IB or a Cambridge board in India. We were discussing about 30, 40 years.
Right. And
about
it was only created in the 1970s, the
That's
IB.
right. So it's not very old. We don't know what we're getting into. So in terms of long term, like we haven't seen careers flourishing out of these boards, if that's what you're saying. But is that a wrong direction then? Should you say life flourishing out of these boards more than careers flourishing? I caught your chain of thought over there straight away, right? But I want to take that question both to the Cambridge and IB board representative to understand, okay, what are you trying? What is the end goal when it comes to kids here? And how are you going to ensure that this teacher-oriented program remains intact? Beautiful curriculum, but so dependent on the quality of teachers.
Absolutely, and I think that is the call of the hour. We need to focus more on the development of teachers all over the country. And again, curriculum agnostic. We know about assessments and we know the focus that has come in our country on assessment for learning. But then there is this other beautiful new tool that we have all been aware of for a very long time, and that is assessment as learning. The fact that our teachers are coming in, and I have some wonderful young teachers who bring in best practices from all over the world, and there is so much of sharing because there are groups of teachers in our school who share the learning that they have from outside as well as from within the community of teachers that is growing steadily. Again, the focus of all curricula is to ensure that it is not teacher-led anymore, and that is the most difficult thing to do. To ensure that the teachers do not lead the classroom and the learning happens through the learners, and the inquiry in the classroom is what we have to teach our teachers to. In order to step back, they have to go through a lot of professional development.
Right. Can I request also our other guests to actually come in on this one? We've got, Dr. Rupa Chakravarty, if you can also come in.
So when you talk about teachers, you know, the way we try to teach, you know, in the IB board is what everybody is aware of. But there is one essence which is irrespective of the board. That is to ignite the curiosity of a child and make the child a lifelong learner. Because once you're curious, you're a lifelong learner. So I think, like Ms. Chatterjee rightly said, it's not about the boards. It's about the way we are looking at it, you know, even A-levels, because each board has its strength. Every board has its strength. But what about the way we utilize that strength of that board? Like one of the speakers rightly said, one of the panelists, that we have these many glorious people who have gone on to head some of the most well-known and sought-after companies. I mean, 5.6% of the Fortune 500 companies are led by Indians. And they've studied in these kind of boards, you know.
Yes.
So having said that, and having studied to a great extent in a foreign board, I feel the vision with which we are looking at, and let's not undermine Cambridge because
Seem to have lost that signal.
Yeah, I think we've lost her connection, and we'll come back to her in just a second. But let's go back to the OGs that we started with. Manipushpak ji, if we could come back to you to understand a little bit more on your perspective, and Dr. Sanjay Roy, if we can come back to you to understand more about both of your perspectives on this entire story. Let me come actually, Dr. Sanjay will come to you in a second. Let me actually go first to Manipushpak Joshi to understand from him. There is one criticism, especially recently, that we're hearing around CBSE. So we know that it wins out, and I just want to summarize quickly for our audiences. It does win out hands down on the pricing argument. There is, I don't think there is necessarily space for nuance. I think the larger question of what teaches you better, critically arms you, there the jury remains open. But Manipushpak ji, if I could come to you to ask you, recently a lot of the criticism for CBSE, if there's been any, has ranged around changes. The fact that changes are made again and again, the fact that even right now, as we were just talking about it, big positive changes made in class 10, but it's left a lot of people grumbling that changes to hote rehte hain har saal. Do you think that is just part and parcel of running any board? How do you see it?
Yes, changes are required in every process, and rather than changing is evolution. What I see it, I am seeing an evolution because we have to see what's going on. What is going on in our surrounding, how the other countries are evolving, how they are changing their boards, and how can we make our student more competitive. End of the day, we are a country with huge population. Right, so we have to train our students also according to it. When we see that yes, we are now a globalized world, then what's going on other side of the country, or what's going on other side of the world, and how we can do it and how we can change it. So the basic criticism for CBSE boards and ICSE boards, it's pressure, right? So government is yes, so government is trying to lower it down by giving them more options. If you'll see in class 12th, in class 10th, we now have more subject options. Now a student can choose psychology with biology. So the options, they are increasing those options. They are giving more and more, flexibility to students. So they can. So the only thing is to reduce the pressure, and with that we cannot compromise on quality also.
Yeah.
Okay, but if I could ask, and I'll take this to Dr. Sanjay Roy, Doctor, what we were addressing a little earlier though, with our other two panelists, was that with IB, with IGCSE, it's more than just the subjects. You're teaching people how to think. With a structure, for example, like TOK, Theory of Knowledge, you're teaching people how to think about different things around them, and in a sense, arming them for life beyond the subjects. As we were saying earlier, when's the last time we needed to use how the inside of a cell membrane is shaped? Not too often. So how would you answer that question? Where do you see IGSE, CBSE using that?
Yeah, and can I just add to that, just to sort of bring in a perspective, just for example, really today as grown-ups, and it's a very balanced panel because Toya is from an IB board, I came from an ICSE board. As a grown-up, I don't see a lot of application for all the stuff that I studied so hard for. I don't see sine cos theta being used today in world at all. And when I have a child today, I'm thinking AI is going to answer all those questions. Does she really need that? Which is where the question to these OG boards comes on how are you evolving to future-proof kids in a world where answers are there, application is required.
How to think? Dr. Sanjay?
So, I think that's a wonderful question once again, and I think most of the questions have already been answered by my esteemed panelists. But let me tell you that ICSE, as Mr. Joshi rightly said, that we are evolving as well. And after the NEP coming in, and in fact much before that, right from the time ICSE board has come into existence, I think 1958, right from then, the system of giving options to the students is already there. All right, it's not that it's something new that the ICSE is coming up with. We already had that system long ago. In fact, ICSE is one board, I think, all over the world, which has exams being conducted in all the regional languages of India. We have all these subjects being covered so that a child is more comfortable in answering the paper, in applying it, and at the same time understanding whatever he or she is doing. Now, we also have, I'm sure you being an ICSE student, you've done something that is known as SUPW, Social Useful Productive Work. Now, we just name that same gift in different ways, like TOK, and of course, so it's just the same packet. It's the same gift which is put in different packets. So it's not that one board is better than the other. It's basically what type of human beings are we creating. So ICSE also, as I said earlier, it aims at holistic development. It also aims at creating good human beings through these subjects, because no matter what, if you are good in your subject, if you're good in understanding, if you're sympathetic, if you're empathetic towards the others, I think you, whether you are in India or abroad, you will turn out to be a successful as well as a great personality in your respective field. So I completely feel that ICSE is, I would not say better, but yes, on par as compared to the other boards, and it does give an edge as compared to the other state boards or maybe the A levels. I'm sorry about that, but then I feel that the rigorousness of the curriculum is very intense. So,
Okay,
it's not that ICSE principles I'm supporting that, but yes, that is the fact, because it grills you. And once, this is like, if you talk about a diamond, till the diamond doesn't undergo the right amount of pressure, it will not shine.
I don't know, Sadhu. That's what I think. That's the critical. I don't want to say flaw, but the way in which the
if you want to shine
CBSE,
like
the
the sun, if you want to
ICSE.
shine like the sun during the student life, first learn to burn like the sun.
I don't know if I necessarily agree. I think through play is how you learn, and I think there are other boards that maybe emphasize that. But it's been lovely to have all of you here to explain to us, to just sort of for us also to ask these deeper
We
questions.
should come back
to
and
you.
revisit this. We were just warming up and we were just getting the daggers out to understand which board does what. But maybe for another time, we do want to thank IIMUN for actually arranging this beautiful panel for us. That's India's International Movement for United Nations, to unite the nations actually, and to actually get them all on board. How lovely, no? To actually hear from all of them. And just basically tells you what? That tells you that there is no right or wrong for a board to be. It's all about the curriculum, it's all about the school. And perhaps the next question that parents might have in mind is, what do you give priority to? Do you give priority to the right kind of school or the right kind of board? But that's a debate for another day.